All right, social media. I'm going to do my Mr. Rogers Joe Negri impression while all the platforms populate. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Good to see everybody here on social media. Welcome all. Welcome to this very anticipated topic that was selected by Brenda from BE Branding. It's becoming prolific in the education space. Excuse me. And we're referring to it as frustration with quality of service or product. At Jumpstart some years ago during COVID, um, it was amazing to receive phone calls from like the Seattle Metro Chamber of Commerce or um, some companies I won't name, but large customer service companies that were struggling with events that were occurring in the direct service environment over COVID restrictions. Crisis, really, between members of the workforce and members of the public over COVID safety. And I would say that the customer service domain has been very, very receptive to crisis negotiation, crisis communication principles in their day to day work. Uh, while we're not dealing with COVID safety measures today, we are dealing with disagreements that can be, very rightly manifesting or not rightly. But be that as it may, companies today have to manage frustration from customers that pertain to the quality of service or the quality of the product that the customer has received. Now, however well placed or accurate the claim may be, it's not unusual for someone's expression of these issues to be particularly intense and animated. Um, who knows, for whatever reason, uh, a quality issue with a service or a product results in someone being angry and yelling, or someone engaging in ad hominem personal kinds of attacks at a workforce member who is an emissary or a representative of a brand or a company. And I would say that a long-standing tradition in the customer service arena is the business of problem solving or placating to make the anger or the expression of intensity decrease or diminish. Um, People who come from the customer service environment into human services, interestingly, are very, very good at engaging in problem solving with people who are presenting discontrol or disinformation because they've been conditioned from this business model that the customer is always right. The customer needs to be made happy. Part of your job is to accept the frustration with quality or service, with quality of service or product that the customer might articulate. And how they're articulating it really isn't the point. Your job is to make it stop and to make them happy. And this can be a very disempowering proposition when people are instructed that they must become a repository for people's energy of this type, and that their job is to just um, uh, put enough medicine on it with customer service to make them stop. To some extent, we would even argue that that has shaped the way customers are expected to engage a provider when they are not satisfied with something. I'm a particularly finicky person when it comes to certain things that I like to buy. And if things aren't right, I will call the provider and articulate the concern. But it's been some years now since I've ever dreamed of allowing myself to become wildly emotionally aroused and then to become, let's say, unreasonable with a customer service representative. So I'm hoping today's live on these platforms will be helpful to those of you in the customer service domain. Um, okay. Yeah, got you, Jess. Thank you. Getting some updates on our social platforms, just making sure that we're getting out there, and we are. So let's talk a little bit about some options that one has when working in a customer service capacity and someone approaches you, whether it's on the telephone or in person, presenting an extraordinary amount of frustration with the quality of service or the product itself. The first thing is we would focus on would be to ask you to consider a couple of core beliefs, beliefs that we might want you to change if you're holding on to some of the old ones. First is no employer uh, can reasonably expect under law its employees to be abused. That's fact. We have workplace violence prevention statutes in almost every state that protect employees from being belittled or verbally abused or verbally assaulted because of some customer service issue. Now, if your employer is not minimally acknowledging the existence of that and expects you to become a repository of ill will from disgruntled customers, uh, you have some things to think about regarding your job and articulating or asserting um, your thoughts on what you're willing to tolerate or not. I will say that many employers who have embraced workplace violence prevention trainings and initiatives are much better now than they used to be about tolerating that kind of stuff. Um, there are some tribal communities that, on the customer service side of things, have been conditioned by the communities they serve, that when those communities express frustration, that they can engage in a placating mode to make it stop. So, if your employer has a culture that I've described as less than optimal, you have some things to think about in terms of how much you want to live with that, um, or to see if your employer is willing to hear some feedback from the workforce about how challenging it is to do that work regularly and to remain regulated and well in the course of one's life. But be that as it may, um, the idea here is to embrace an idea. And the idea is that you do not have to be untowardly exposed constantly to abuse and people handing out, let's say, such a whopping dose of negativity that it's impacting your well-being. If that's the case, there's some things for you to think about in terms of where you want to work and how you want to work. Um, Being assertive with one's needs was one of the great gifts that Marshall Rosenberg gave us with nonviolent communication, the ability to articulate one's personal needs in the context of negotiating conflict or negotiating anything really. Um, so to be able to talk to a supervisor, for a group of employees to organize and come together and go to leadership and say, "Hey, we love our job. We love what we do. We'd like to be supported in not tolerating certain kinds of things. Like if a customer begins cursing at us, we'd like to be able to push back on that. Or if a customer begins assaulting us personally with ad hominem attacks, we'd like to be able to push back on that and be supported. We don't have to listen to being told that we're, POSs and so forth." Um, and as I mentioned earlier, the good news is that many employers are on board with this now. So, having said that, you don't need to be a repository for untoward negativity, but to also expect that Quality issues with services or products are very triggering for people. And what people might be articulating from the customer space might have not just to do with the quality of product or service. It's that plus all of the other stuff that has been imprinted in their life bundled up into this moment where a scratch on the finish of this bed frame that the customer has waited for months and spent their hard-earned money to buy. The bed frame arrives, they unpackage it. It has a scratch on the frame, on the finish, and it's irritating because somebody has gone through the exercise of spending their money and they have an expectation. What's the expectation? That the product is going to arrive in perfect condition. I just went through this not long ago with something I ordered. And it's not like everybody in the world is going to separate out all of their past trauma and imprinting. Perhaps they were taken advantage of. Perhaps they were exploited. Perhaps they were dismissed or neglected by a provider. And they're carrying into the interaction all of this other stuff. The second core belief we would ask you to recognize is that nothing that this person is presenting has to do with you. Now, I know we probably hear that in the training space a lot, but to really allow that to seep in, the customer's difficulty with the scratch and the finish of the bed frame has nothing to do with you. Has nothing to do with you. Their frustration with that has nothing to do with you as a human being on the other end of the phone or on the other side of the counter. What you have a responsibility to do is to lead this person in the moment to some kind of regulated state so that not only is your wellness taken care of, your highest likelihood of a satisfactory outcome is optimized. So we have to deal with the regulation problem first before we can deal with the problem at hand. What's the problem at hand? There's a scratch in the finish of this bed frame. So what might be some ways we would consider to begin the interaction? If you've been following us on these lives for any period of time, you'll know that the prescription for this that we often provide doesn't change. The first thing, in the words of the great Tony Blauer, is to accept this is happening. I'm observing someone, particularly animated, saying that they're unsatisfied because there's a scratch in the finish of this $4,000 bed frame that they just ordered from France. And would seem to me that this person's animation is beyond a scratch in the bed frame. It's very likely that there are a number of other forces at play. None of this has to do with me. Fixing the scratch in the bed frame is not the solution at the moment. What's more present in the moment is this person's animation, their expression in the moment. I have to manage that first. We're accepting this is happening. This is happening. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to let this person know as much as we can and as genuinely as we can that they are seen, heard, and understood. Andy, you're just suggesting that we sit there and tolerate the abuse. No, that's not what we're suggesting. And we feel very strongly about this approach in almost every context. The only context where it wouldn't apply is if you had to stop an imminent safety threat. But if you're not stopping an imminent safety threat, if someone's fist isn't cocked, if the blade hasn't been deployed from the knife, if the bat hasn't been raised, if the safety threat is not imminent, our recommendation is to start with letting the person know that they're seen, heard, and understood. Why? It's neurobiologically the best thing to do. Why? Because the moment that it registers with them that they're seen, heard, and understood, the part of their energy that's animating themselves to be heard will no longer be required because you're letting them know that they're heard. So you're defusing the bomb when you let someone know that they're seen, heard, and understood. The degree to which they are animating themselves to ensure that they are heard is being fed back that it's been sufficient. Message is loud and clear. Whoa, I get that you're really upset about this, and understandably so. Probably spent a lot of hard-earned money. Who wouldn't be upset over something like this? I completely get it. You have my 100% undivided attention. I totally understand where you're coming from, and I can understand why you're angry. And to take a moment and see how that lands with someone. Sometimes it may land in a way where someone says, "Oh, okay, all right, well," um, almost admitting that they had to force themselves to do that in order to be heard. Some other people may hear that with, "Yeah, you probably just say that to everybody." That doesn't change my strategy. I hear you saying you think I do this with everybody. I have to manage a lot of customer service problems every day. And I can completely resonate with what would even make me unhappy if I had ordered what you had ordered here. I think what you're laying down here is entirely reasonable. I could totally appreciate where you're coming from on this. The reason that we're doing that is because it interpersonally, neurobiologically influences someone to regain their composure because you're stimulating the parasympathetic nervous system. You're causing them to reappraise, which is what the literature says, which has linkage to the parasympathetic nervous system. We're pouring on validation. The next thing that you might want to refer to at that point is whatever the company's culture or policy or rules are regarding these things. Here at the XYZ company, our commitment, fundamental commitment, is to make all of our customers extremely happy with their purchase. Well, you certainly didn't make me happy. I hear you loud and clear, sir. Our commitment is to do that. How about I present you with some options here that can help satisfy the situation? That way, we can get closer to the idea that even though a customer service or a quality issue has come up here with the product, that the customer service has resolved that to your satisfaction and that you feel inclined to do business with us again. A nonverbal component of observing your self-regulation as the customer service representative in the interaction will also inspire that person to self-regulate. If you are composed, I've seen some of the greatest customer service people with very little crisis intervention experience do absolutely terrific work when they come into human services because they have experienced people presenting hostility, anger, aggression, intensity, animation in the business environment. So when they come into the hospital setting or the healthcare setting and someone's getting animated, to them, this is not new. Now, while the risks may be different because someone in an involuntary setting or a care setting for any reason might, particularly if it's psychiatric in nature or correctional in nature, might be more prone or tilted toward violence. The presentation initially is not unlike what many people experience in the customer service world. So our customer service people are almost like, from my perspective, business crisis interventionists. This is why all of our friends at Jumpstart, Scott Tillema from the hostage negotiation world in the business space, George Kohlreiser, been at it for many, many years, hostage negotiator in the business leadership space. It's because these principles work in the spaces in which human beings exist. We're talking about interpersonal interactions between human beings. The contexts offer very little, I would say, specific education experience compared to what the common attributes are. What are the common attributes? Someone who is frustrated with the quality of a product or service is now animating themselves to the degree that they're presenting like they're in discontrol. And my first responsibility in the hostage or crisis situation is to, as Gary Nesner would say, slow things down, buy some time, help someone re-engage a capacity for thinking. He would use the teeter-totter example here. As emotions go high on the teeter-totter, rational thinking goes low. As rational thinking gets higher on the teeter-totter, emotional arousal decreases. So this is why these principles work in the business setting, and we have as many opportunities to learn from the business setting where crisis is occurring constantly, what we can do better in terms of customer service in the healthcare field. Kevin Huckshorn, in fact, talks about that all the time. This is a doctoral level nurse, one of my um, uh, almost idols. What she's done over the past 35 years is astonishing um, in the psychiatric care and services space. And all she talks about as a doctoral level nurse is that we have lost customer service in the healthcare field. So this can happen in the healthcare field, by the way, where people become frustrated with the quality or service of a product. Luzine Marabi talks about this all the time in how providers lose customer service capacity when managing the need to communicate life-changing news. They completely forget about how someone might experience it. They lay it out in this almost dispassionate way, and then they immediately go into treatment options, and someone is just swallowing right now that they have stage 4 cancer and that their life is short. So there's a lot that we can learn from the customer service field. So, what am I building up to here in these 20 minutes of this live? A couple of key ideas that we talk about all the time. What are they? Accept this is happening. This has nothing to do with me. Even if it does, let's say someone called me because I made a commitment to the customer and it didn't result in the way it was supposed to result. I may have to own that. I may have to say, sir, you're completely right in your appraisal of my commitment to you and how that wasn't fulfilled. I couldn't agree with you more. Your observation is correct. I can totally appreciate why you're angry. Notwithstanding that, we have a supervisory chain here that would enable you to escalate your concern to someone beyond me. If you'd like, I'm happy to give you that person's number or transfer you. If you do that, you'd have an opportunity to solve this problem independently of me, and I can completely appreciate why you wouldn't want to talk to me about it. That may be one strategy. The attributes are what's important. What are the attributes? I have to manage someone's discontrol, someone's dysregulation. This has nothing to do with me. I'm not at fault. I'm not the reason. I'm not the energy, the motivation. I'm here holding space for someone who's presenting something. What's the next thing? I have to accept this is happening. The more I deny or delay that this is happening, the harder this is going to be to do. The next thing I'm going to do is let someone know through validating them that they're seen, heard, and understood. I'm doing that for reasons that have less to do with care or concern about them and more to do with, if I do this, the intensity that this person is currently leveling will reduce. And then after I do that, I'm going to consider the rest of my steps. I'm going to refer to the company's shared values or policies around managing challenges like this. I'm going to suggest a course of action and I'm going to prompt them on how it serves them. Verbal de-escalation skills protocol. Validate, defer, suggest, prompt. 4 verbs sequentially in that order for a reason. And there's more to be learned. If you want to learn more about contextualizing the approach for your specific work environment, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Working with customer service staff is not new to Jumpstart in any way. Believe it or not, I'll share an interesting anecdote with you. We did a job for a large waste disposal organization where customers who were bringing their recyclables and trash to bring to the waste disposal facility was resulting in an extraordinary number of aversive interactions between workforce members and the community served at the area where someone had to pay to leave. So at these sites, you drive in with your truck or trailer, you go over a scale, it weighs you, you deposit your waste, you get weighed on the way out. The difference between what your weight was in and what your weight is leaving, there's a calculation for what that's going to cost. Then the person is presented the need to pay, and then the person disagrees with the calculation or doesn't want to pay. This was happening so much that the local police agency had to create a static post for a police officer in their patrol car to be there for the entire duration that this place was open. It was happening an extraordinary amount. Um, uh, the workforce received training in verbal craft at all levels of the organization, and the negative interactions that were resulting in a police presence were positively impacted, in a good way. That's what I mean by that. Like, the frequency of those events, anecdotally, reportedly, have reduced considerably. Did they have a peer-reviewed study about that at the waste disposal facility? No. But did they tell us that this is what happened? Yes. So these principles work. And these principles are the principles that we used in psychiatric emergency response, principles that we use in mobile crisis, co-response, hostage negotiation, crisis negotiation, barricaded people, people who don't want to take medication, work equally well in the customer service environment. If you want to learn more, come check us out at jumpstartmastery.org. And reach out to us. We'd be happy to engage you. I hope you enjoyed this live, dealing with quality of service or product issues and people presenting frustration. I enjoy doing these lives, and I hope that you can take something from this and apply it immediately afterward. All the very best to you. This is Andy from Jumpstart. Take good care.